Frankenstein's monster. Was it real? Did Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein, create the monster out of some sort of reality? Let's find out together.
Go.
Did you know that the classic story of Frankenstein has even darker secrets than modern movies ever reveal? And did you also know that Mary Shelley didn't describe the monster the way we see it on modern TV shows and in films? Let's consider together what the true nature of Frankenstein really is. It was a quiet night in 1816 at Lord Byron's villa on Lake Geneva, where she and her companions had gathered for the summer. The infamous stormy evening where ghost stories were proposed as entertainment loomed large in her mind. While her friends struggled to concoct tales, something far deeper stirred within Mary, something dark and primal clawing its way into the realm of fiction. By that night's end, she had birthed the idea of Frankenstein, the tale of a man who dared to play God, animating life from death, seemed a stroke of inspiration from her surroundings. But the truth of that genesis was far more personal, far more secret. In 1816, when Mary Shelley created Frankenstein, science was making breakthroughs, especially in medicine. And that was like playing with fire. Medicine was evolving rapidly, and one of its most controversial practices involved the use of human cadavers for research. Medical institutions, desperate to learn the secrets of the human body, purchased cadavers from dubious sources, often from grave robbers, known as resurrectionists. These men would steal bodies freshly buried in the graves to sell them to medical schools, where they were dissected in the name of science. The demand for cadavers was insatiable, and the lines between science and morality blurred. Some scientists began to explore the tantalizing possibilities of reanimating the dead, bringing dead bodies back to life. Galvanism, named after Luigi Galvani, was at the forefront of these experiments. Galvani had discovered that electricity could cause the muscles of dead animals to twitch and contract. And his nephew, Giovanni Aldini, took these ideas even further. Aldini conducted public demonstrations in which he passed electrical currents through the bodies of recently executed criminals, causing their limbs to jerk as if they were coming back to life. Mary was deeply aware of these practices. She knew exactly what was going on behind closed doors. The ethical conflicts of the time, the collision of scientific curiosity with the sanctity of life, resonated with her on a personal level. She had witnessed firsthand the loss of life, her mother, her children, and now the world seemed to suggest that death was not final, that perhaps there was a way to conquer it. Mary Shelley knew death, and she wished desperately that the dead, especially her own children, could rise again. Frankenstein captured the growing tensions between science and morality, between the pursuit of knowledge and the price of playing God. It was more than a Gothic tale. It was a reflection of the time's anxieties, where life, death, and scientific discovery were all being questioned. Mary Shelley, aware of these developments in science, embedded them into her novel. But what many people aren't aware of is how personal Frankenstein was. Mary had lived in the shadows of life and death since her earliest years. Her mother, the feminist icon Mary Wollstonecraft, died days after giving birth to her. The absence of her mother haunted her like a ghost that was never seen, but always felt. Mary grew up surrounded by the intellectual elite, her father, the philosopher William Godwin, and her eventual husband, the poet Percy Shelley. Yet she was marked by loss. By the time Mary had written Frankenstein, she had already lost one child and would go on to lose 3 more. She knew the agony of grief, the torment of yearning to undo the irreversible. It was this yearning, this impossible dream, that had sparked her story of reanimation. What would she not give to breathe life back into the lifeless? Wasn't Victor Frankenstein's obsession simply a mirror of her own desire to defy nature, to conquer mortality itself? The creature, too, reflected Mary's own experiences. Abandoned, unloved, the outcast from life's natural order. Mary herself felt the isolation of being a woman in a world dominated by male thinkers, the daughter of her mother she could never meet. She had never quite fit into society's mold, her sharp intellect making her both a marvel and a misfit. The creature's desperation for acceptance was her own. And then there was Percy, the poet, the brilliant man of passion. His ambitions would often leave Mary behind. The tragic hubris of Victor Frankenstein mirrored Percy's own relentless pursuits. The way he seemed to chase glory without regard for consequence. Just as Victor lost everything in his quest to play God, Mary feared losing herself to Percy's wild ideals. Their tumultuous relationship, full of love, loss, and betrayal, was imbued into her creation of a man who lost his humanity in pursuit of creation. The origins of Frankenstein were the product of Mary Shelley's life and the grief that followed her. In Frankenstein, Mary Shelley did not simply create a monster. She poured her deepest fears, her rawest grief, and her most complex reflections on life and death into its pages. The novel was her way of confronting the forces that shaped her own existence, and in doing so, she birthed a story that would forever haunt the world, just as her life haunted her. And by the way, the depictions of Frankenstein are a creation of Hollywood. The original description of Frankenstein by Mary was much more haunting and terrifying, and certainly was not flat-headed with electroconnectors in his neck. The true Frankenstein was a sad and desperately lonely creature, stitched together in a much more horrifying way. And the true Frankenstein was tortured by his own existence, much as Mary seems to have been. Thank you so much for listening with me, and we'll see you on our next adventure. You were listening, right? Come on, this is some dark... I mean, wow. Wow. Question. Would you like to bring back someone from the dead? Until next time.